hell is that?
Here are the tracks of a snowshoe hare, and you can see the enormous size of their back feet. Now, they're a fairly good sized animal. They're not actually a rabbit, but you can see that they only sink just a quarter of an inch or so into this powdery snow, and that's why they have such large feet. They don't call them snowshoe hare for nothing. You can see the abundance of tracks. Here we have some tracks from partridge, or you might call it grouse. And but there's tracks everywhere here, and it's like I said, it's just after a snowfall, and the animals have been cooped up in that bad weather for several days, and everybody's hungry, and they're all out in force looking for something to eat. And of course the wolves and predators are out doing exactly the same thing.
Walking up the side of this road, I'm gonna walk probably 20 yards maybe, but just look at these tracks in here. Rabbits, squirrels, mostly, a few marten tracks here and there. Look at in there, all over the place and off into the distance, all along. Look at this, it's like a highway all along here. It's constant, and it's like that this entire road. See, all back in the background there, I don't know if you can see that, all back in there, all along the top of this, up and down the bank where they've crossed the road. More again, squirrel tracks, and then the big varying hare, jackrabbits basically, snowshoe hare. But look at that, it's just all the way up here, and it's just like I said, it's constant. Now that's a healthy environment, folks. That's what you get when you have a mixture of trees. We have a tamarack here. These are all alders and willows, some dogwood in here, the red twig, poplars. There's evergreens all around through here of all kinds. There's there's the tamarack, but there's also the white spruce and black spruce, a few birch trees mixed in. But this is just constant. And as you can see, I haven't gone very far. There's a spot right there. You could set snares every 10 feet along here if you needed to, and you'd have no trouble. And it just goes like this all the way up the road. It's just all the way up there and all the way back. Now I've been following this road here for, well, just this part right now for maybe 25 yards. I think I probably went all together. But if you look down the road, it goes miles, and it's the same way all the way down the road there. As I was driving up here and then walking, it's the same way, the entirely, and both sides of the road.
You can see here that the tracks are going in amongst all these alders and willows, and they go in between some narrow spots between the trees and the branches called pinch points. And if you are needing it in a survival situation, or just in a survival or sustainability situation, there's a number of places, any number of places here that you could set snares, and there's no doubt that you could get a number of rabbits that would help. Now, rabbits aren't the greatest thing to sustain yourself on, but they sure do help. Right here you can see the red squirrel tracks. That little guy ran across the road just in front of us. He was only maybe 50 yards away, so that was only a moment ago. Now, there's something up the road here that I'm going to go up and have a look at, but the next probably minute and a half or 2 minutes is a bit graphic. So if there's anybody that doesn't really want to see that, you might want to skip the next maybe minute and 40 seconds. So just up the road here in the distance, this is all part of nature. There's an area here where there's been a scuffle, and a red fox has been caught by something, and he didn't do well. Now, I've looked all around here. This happened during the night. after the snow quit. So there was a dusting of snow. When I looked around, there's coyote tracks and raven tracks and everything, all making a muddle out of all of this. But there was one spot that looked like maybe it was just like somebody put the tips of their fingers on the snow and just made fingertip marks. And I'm wondering if perhaps that was the wingtips of an owl that swooped in and got this fox during the night. Foxes are pretty wily, and the chances of him getting caught in the open by a coyote, you know, it can happen for sure, but it's probably not the most common thing. So, but like I said, there was such a bunch of tracks over top of it with the ravens and other coyotes and so on that there was just really not a good way for me to tell. But you know, this is nature. This is the way it goes. He like, this is all confined to this one area here, so he didn't even have an opportunity to put up a fight. I searched the area a little bit. There was no running scuffle or fight that I could see. Something just got him where he was, where you see this happening here, and that's what makes me think that possibly it was an owl that swooped down and started it, and then the other animals and ravens and so on have finished the job. You know, there are so many different ways to enjoy nature. It's a different story, a different page in the book. Every time you go out there, you look at the tracks, you can see what the animals have been doing, see how they play out their lives. But another way to do it, and something that I've always enjoyed for years and years, is making these plaster casts. And no, I don't make one every time I find a track, but when I see something like this moose track right here, that track's as big as my hand, and I have big hands. That big old bull is a brute, at least in my area, and so I covered up that track and went home and got my plaster of Paris and went back and I cast this track from it, and it makes a kind of a cool trophy. You know, nobody got hurt, nobody had to die for it, but it's a pretty neat thing to have. And I've always wondered whether I should, you know, sort of paint it and whatever, but I kind of like it natural, I guess. So you can see here, now that I've put the ruler up to it, that this whole casting piece is pretty close to 9 inches long, and that track takes up by far the majority of the casting. There's only just a little bit of plaster on each end just so that it doesn't break up. So in my area here, that's a pretty darn good track. The same goes for the second one I've got, which you'll see here momentarily, and it's a wolf track. Now, this wolf track, it doesn't show up quite as well, but that track is bigger than the palm of my hand. And as you might be able to see here, when I get my shadow out of the way, that dish that it's in is a good 5 inches in diameter, and the track, again, takes up the majority of that space. So, you know, a 4.5 inch wolf track, that's a whole lot of wolf, folks. And you know, they grow big up here because it's rugged country and deep snow, and they have to be big just to get around and survive. But still, that's an awful big track. So I want to thank you for joining me today. I just wanted to show you a few of the things that I do that, well, they help pass the time during the winter, but I'm outdoors. I'm enjoying nature all the time anyways. And these are just a few things that I do that just makes it a little bit more enjoyable, a little bit more memorable. I want to thank you very much for watching today. I hope everybody has a great week. We'll see you all down the trail.